Hello and welcome to The Build Up. This is the podcast for marketing in the construction industry. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We've been working with construction brands for a number of years. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving industry, and that's why we created a podcast dedicated to the weird and wonderful world of construction marketing. I'll be speaking to leading brands, other agencies, creatives, influencers and startups. This is the resource I wish we had when we first started out in the industry. Thank you for being here and welcome to The Build Up. Welcome back to another episode of The Build Up. I am Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We are a social first creative agency, right, Key?
That's the one.
And we deal specifically with brands in the construction industry to make cool content, hard-hitting social media marketing. And today I am joined with the sales and marketing manager of Fischer Fixings, our boys, Fischer Fixings, Dan Czerwinski. Welcome, mate.
Thank you.
How was that?
Having me.
How was that? That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Perfection personified.
I want to preface this episode by the fact that me and Dan both feel a bit rough today, not because of like drinking or anything, just the winter and colds and stuff like
obviously.
that. Busy lifestyles. Really excited to have you on. Obviously, we've worked with each other for years. We're friends anyway, and I kind of know a bit of your story anyway. But I think there's some stuff that we can kind of like. There'll be some stuff that I don't think I'm that familiar with.
Some golden nuggets of marketing in there somewhere.
Exactly, for sure. But I want to start with, can you give us an introduction to yourself kind of and kind of what you do?
Whoa. So at Fischer's, obviously sales and marketing, but I also encompass product management. We set up an e-commerce department recently. And yeah, I've been at Fischer for nearly 10 years now. Whoa. So I like to say I'm involved in every single part of the business, like a good marketing manager should be really. Yeah. But yeah, we've kind of just grown in the past 5 years in terms of our marketing strategy, our communication strategy, and of course working with you guys at Dissident, it's just really helped us along the way. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey really.
I mean, the intention for this episode really was to just get one massive testimonial for Dissident Creative Agency. So
that's what I'm going for.
If you can sort of steer clear of any actual value and just talk about Dissident for the whole time, that would be amazing, mate. I'd appreciate that.
I really like the directors at Dissident, really good people.
How did you find yourself in construction? Because There's two sort of schools of marketers in construction. There's the ones that found themselves in it and they do incredibly well and they were excited about it. And there's the ones that found themselves in it and they're not excited about it. And I feel like you're the first school that got, that you really thrive on this industry, don't you?
I think I do now.
Yeah.
I was thinking of this in the car on the way up. I hate it when people say, I fell into construction.
Yeah.
Nobody, I'm allowed to swear on this,
Yeah, of course.
Nobody fucking falls into construction.
No.
You apply for a job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
And I think I'm a bit more elegant than falling into construction. So I strode into construction.
Absolutely.
But by accident.
Yeah.
So my first job 14 years ago now was as a merchandiser for ITW on a graduate program.
Mm-hmm.
So I just left uni. I was thinking, oh yeah, merchandiser, that's cool. I'm going to be working with retail outlets like in fashion or something like that. Completely not.
Yeah.
Walked into my interview, as you do when you're 21, do no research on the brand that you're going to go apply for. Walked into a branch of a business called SIG, got taken into a room and got told I was going to be merchandising construction brands. And what do I know? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
First question for my very first interview at ITW was, look at that store, tell me what's wrong.
Whoa.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was pick on a sales guy, which has kind of been what I do for the past 14 years. So
just pick on the sales guys.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, kind of, I was a sales guy for like 6 months.
Okay.
So as a merchandiser, that's where I started, which kind of gave me a footing into what I use in a lot of our marketing now. So I like to think like there's a lot behind marketing with your gut.
Yes.
So knowing internally what you think will work. And I think a lot of that has come from, okay, it's only 6 months in sales, but working a little bit in sales, working a long time in product management, and then making the transition to marketing. And I think when I left product management and became a marketer, that's when I got a bit more excited about it.
Yeah, I think having that perspective on sales in general, even if it's not necessarily in the same industry, I think that can make a big difference to your sort of outlook on marketing, can't it? Like if you've just got any kind of sales experience, it just gives you a little bit more context.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who join a marketing team or become a marketing manager can do it nowadays straight out of uni.
Yes.
There's jobs out there that you can be sort of like junior marketing manager or entry-level marketing manager. You need no background in that industry. You don't need to know what sells the product. You don't need to know what drives your consumer to buy that product. You are just a market manager.
Yes.
And I would say to like people like that, like spend time with your sales force.
Yes.
Spend time in your retail outlets. Learn why people actually buy your product. Because if you don't know that as a starting point, you've got no hope. Then developing a marketing plan, pulling more consumers into your product, getting them to understand the values of your brand, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot to learn from sales. And sales isn't just men and women walking to shops, flogging their gear.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. And I think understanding that as a marketer really can help you on the way.
I think also from the point of view of like social media, which is that kind of our realm, ever since we started running accounts and actually doing the community management, which for people who don't know is actually responding to and engaging with people on social media on behalf of the brand. So we essentially put ourselves into the brand from the audience's perspective. You start to get almost like more of a feel for the brand. And it's almost like an opinion from the consumer's perspective, which I think makes a huge difference. So if you've got that insight into sales, but also that insight into actually this is unabridged, like what your consumer thinks of you, because they're actively tagging you in it or slating it or whatever it could be. Again, I think that massively helps kind of like you as a marketer to understand. Okay, I'm starting to get a picture here of what people think of the brand and how they interact with it. And that,
it allows you to understand the value of your brand, doesn't it? And like, if your value proposition hits with your consumer, then you get that feedback straight away. If it doesn't, then you need to look elsewhere, or you need to change your tactic, or readjust your brand architecture, or something needs to change if it's not hitting those points that you want. Jobs. Next job, ITW.
Okay.
So finished ITW, joined Fischer. And yeah, like we were saying, like 10 years at Fischer now. Joined it again as a product manager. So if you've never worked in product management before, it is literally the best job.
Okay.
It is the glue to every single department. I mean, you learn a lot about marketing in product management, because obviously you get the information fed to you from product development or from R&D. So you really have to understand those key features first of a product or a service that you're offering. And then you learn how to market that and how to sell it and how to push it to your consumer. And even if it does fit within your product mix, you kind of learn all of that as a product manager. But then obviously the fun bit's the marketing, right? And that's where the love of marketing came, because who wants to be the glue that pulls in all the departments, from procurement, from marketing, from sales, when you can just do the fun stuff?
Yes.
And the fun stuff is what drives me now. So
the colouring in department, as a lot of people call it.
The gluing and sticking.
So you were product manager at Fischer. Were you? Did you say?
Yeah, at the start. Yeah, so
Okay.
product manager for ITW. I took a short hiatus into the food and beverage industry, which isn't exciting as it sounds.
No.
It's super boring.
No.
But one claim to fame from that was I worked on a project team that made the first ever conical metal detector.
Is that right?
Yeah, it sounds fancy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Basically, it makes crisps go down a chute faster and make sure there's no metal in them, because they spin round. And
I could get behind that. That sounds really cool. Yeah. So now, marketing manager and sales and marketing manager at Fischer. But for those who don't know about Fischer, can you give us like a brief introduction to Fischer as a brand, kind of what they do, who it's for, stuff like that?
So I hope a lot of people do know Fischer now, after a lot of hard work with brand awareness campaigns.
Absolutely, I'm sure they do.
But yeah, so for people who don't know, so we're a construction fixings manufacturer, which plain and simple means that we make wall plugs for DIY users, wall plugs for trade. We make resin anchors for kind of more technical specification work. We make through bolts. Anything you think that connects something to a wall, something to steel, something to concrete, Fischer probably make it. Recently, we've kind of expanded our sales channels, and we make much more like system solutions now. So like supports for subframe, ACT fixings, which is a cladding system. So when you see those nice like ceramic panels on the outside of buildings, there's probably a bit of Fischer behind that, holding it to the wall. So yeah, we've really diversified as a business, but I think our core business will always be wall plugs and nylon. And I love that about Fischer, because even though it's such a highly technical brand and there's so much R&D and so much research that goes into everything that Fischer do, like it's a tiny product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And for your general consumer, you don't need to know all that stuff that's behind it. You don't need to know the thousands of design hours. You want to know that's in the wall and it's working.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I think that there's a beauty behind that of like complexity to simplicity. And that's a really easy way to market a product as well. You know there's so much research behind it. You can talk to your blue about all the man hours it's taken to design this product. You can talk guff about technical specification, but really it's the simplicity of the product that sells it, and it's the trust of the consumer that sells it. And it's our job as marketers to tell that story, to kind of build the emotion behind it. And then people don't care about the technical side.
No.
They trust it and it's done.
But you have just given me an idea for a new campaign where we have like all of these different elements that go into like the Duo Power or something like that. Number one, world's number one plug.
UK's number one.
UK's number one plug.
Let's say world.
Let's say
it's
world.
opinion based, this podcast, right?
Yeah, who cares? Universe's number one plug. But you got all these kind of like cool pieces of content that are like it's almost like a montage of like scientists, developers, salespeople, blah 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 blah, all these different things, like and the research and development. You get all these films, and they all kind of like are in their own little boxes, and they're all kind of like getting funneled into the Duo Power, and then eventually it just goes into a wall.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
It's some DIYer just putting like up like a, I don't know, a
It's
shelf.
me doing a crappy job of it as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of that. So German brand, and then I mean it brings me on to this incredible phallic prop here, which is the S plug, which S plug, right? I've genuinely hadn't. We've not really had anything to do with the S plug because it was kind of before our time, and we've kind of always been focused on the Duo Powers and stuff like that. But that was what Fischer, like that was their biggest, most historical like innovation.
Yeah, so
right?
this is like our legacy product. As some cooler people than I would say, this is the OG Fischer plug. So Arthur Fischer's not first invention, but first invention in the construction industry. I'm about to say a really contentious statement because there's a lot of other brands who don't believe this is true, but it is true. So it's the world's first nylon wall plug.
Okay.
So we'll put that out, and I'll get loads of hate from other brands, but who cares? So it was the first invention by Fischer. It kind of started our way into construction, and then it just developed from there. Really, I saw some piece of information the other day that Fischer holds over 10,000 patents, and they develop like another 20 patents per employee every single year, which is like crazy when you think about it. But yeah, it's been if you think that started a multi-billion euro business. Yeah. From not the metal one. But from
that specific thing.
No, I don't know what wall that would go into. But yeah, the whole business built off a nylon wall plug. It's crazy when you think about it.
You think of all the different subsidiaries across the world.
Yeah.
All the money and the research and development, the content from the marketing perspective that gets put into this, and it's all from something that puts something up in a wall.
Yeah, and like if you think about it, for the past 5 years, Fischer and specifically in the UK, all of our marketing content and all of our brand awareness campaigns have been centralized around not this version of a wall plug, but another version of the wall plug. So you think of all the investment from marketing, from sales, from procurement that goes into this one tiny little product. It's crazy.
I know.
And I think Fischer now, not just that wall plug in shot, but all the ones that we do, 10 million plugs a day are sold.
Mad.
You feel who's got the amount of wall space to put that in?
Yeah.
But
somebody's putting stuff up.
Yeah.
And we're filming them for the most part where we can.
Maybe they're all going to you.
Maybe. Yeah. We've got a lot of wall plugs, a lot of Duo Powers in the studio, as a result of a lot of the campaigns and stuff that we've done, and it's nice to have. In terms of Fischer as a brand, in terms of like where they're as where the product's positioned and the brand's positioned, can you give us an insight into kind of like where they are? I mean, straight off the bat, like, what do you think people think of Fischer when they see it or when you speak about them?
So we kind of went through a big change like 5 or 6 years ago. We called it like a corporate design refresh or a brand refresh, but it wasn't really that. It was more like a repositioning or a repositioning statement from everybody within the group. So when I first joined Fischer, and I think up until probably like 5 or 6 years ago, we were very much like a technical business that engineers would know or installers would know, but we weren't, a DIY user wouldn't know Fischer. We weren't a consumer focused brand. We're still not anywhere near a consumer brand, but we were never focused on being that. And there were some really simple changes that happened like over the space of a year that really changed the aspect of Fischer and how it related with the customer. So the first one was we changed our logo. So not as drastic as like the crap that Jaguar are doing right now, like making their brand look like a toy car brand, but never mind. So before the Fischer logo was as it is now, but with innovative solutions underneath, which kind of means nothing to nobody, right? It's not making a statement to anybody, unless you're an engineer, unless you're invested in R&D at Fischer. It didn't mean anything to anybody. So we dropped that, cleaned up the logo, created what we call at Fischer the brand box. So it's a standard Pantone color for Fischer that has been from the very, very start. Don't ask me to quote it because I don't know it.
The Pantone?
Oh, the hex code.
You know the hex code, don't you?
EA 2227.
Showed me up.
My boy knows his Fischer
I should have
colours.
asked that before I came on the podcast, like quickly ringing the marketing team, like what's the Pantone color? What's the hex code? But I'm above that now, guys.
Yeah. You don't have to deal with hex codes anymore.
No, but yeah, so we created this really simple brand box where the logo sits, really proud, like really visible. And then I think that's what that allowed Fischer as a brand to do is completely change the way we present our product in our packaging.
Yes.
So I think a big part of marketing that is missed by a lot of people is your packaging concept.
100%.
And that's like, even if it's a tangible or a non-tangible product, people don't pay enough attention to packaging. You can spend thousands on marketing, even millions if you're a big brand on marketing. And if your packaging looks toss, people aren't going to relate to it once they've seen your content, once they've seen your advertising. If you forget about the packaging side of marketing, then that's your conversion area, right? That's your marketing to sales side. And if you're not hitting that, or if you're not focused on the right consumer base, people aren't going to pick it up.
No.
Same with a website. If you've got a great product, if your marketing, if you're like broadcast marketing or your advertising is on point, you get great click-through rate, but then your website's toss. What's going to happen?
It's a break in the funnel, right?
Yeah.
Like, but 100%. Like it's massive, isn't it? You see, especially in DIY, more so than in any other industry, where you've got people who are probably less educated, perhaps less educated in what all these products do. Perhaps anytime they come to a new project, they're introduced to brand new products that they don't have any sort of prior knowledge to. They're going to go based on price and look and feel, right?
Yeah. Big problem in construction, price. Like it's awful. The amount of just selling on price goes on in construction. The only industry where people still buy the cheapest thing.
Yes.
Like, would you ever buy the cheapest shoes?
Absolutely not.
Would you buy like £2 flip flops, or would you buy 30 quid, 40 quid, 50 quid nice pair of trainers?
Yeah,
you always go for kind of middle ground, don't you? Like,
it depends on your sort of thought process, but I sort of probably position myself sort of middle to high end on most things. Like it's sort of like, okay, I don't want to have like the cheapest thing, unless it's like very specific stuff. But yeah, my psychology goes like middle to high. Yeah, that's my thing.
But people in construction don't have that psychological mindset. They think, oh, cheap, that must be good.
Yeah. It's all about the bottom line.
Yeah. It's such a struggle to get to that point where people now believe, okay, yeah, this product's actually worth 50% more, 20% more. But packaging can do that. Packaging can really help you increase your product margins.
Yeah.
Because if it's believable, if it's on brand, if it's hitting the right consumer segment, then it helps. But what that kind of centralized change allowed us to do in the UK was to completely kind of reposition Fischer's direction into the marketplace.
Yes.
So like I was saying before, we're very much a technical brand, same in the UK, selling to engineers, selling to installers, didn't really care about trade, didn't really care about DIY. I say that, I wasn't at Fischer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think when I joined, that was kind of the ethos of the business.
Yes.
But what kind of simplification of the brand, the evolution of the packaging kind of made me think was, okay, so we've got these building blocks now. Let's focus on trade. Let's reposition where Fischer stands within the construction sector, and let's go to these markets because we've got a good looking brand. We've now got good looking packaging. Why don't we start marketing to these people? Why don't we try and get them to believe in Fischer, or at least know about Fischer and know what we're about? And that's really kind of what we've been doing for a good 5 or 6 years now, just banging that drum like we are a trade brand. We are still a technical brand as well, and we are a DIY brand. But behind all this is kind of like one core positioning statement, and it's not like I think a lot of marketers do this, but don't realize they're doing it. It's not a secret positioning statement. It's not like kind of marketing voodoo that nobody knows about, and then you finally find it. I think people do it, or they know what their positioning statement is. But we changed our positioning statement. The messaging that we use is still different per channel, like it always should be, because you will never be saying the same message to the same people.
Yes.
But behind it all is like trusted in construction.
Yes.
And through everything that we do in our broadcast media, in our advertising, even through to like our PR and white papers, it's always got to kind of in one way think back to, okay, this is a trusted brand.
Yes.
These guys have been in the construction industry for 70 plus years. They know what they're talking about. And if it doesn't, then it's not usable. It's pointless.
Yes.
Why are you spending all this time and money trying to reposition your brand to this positioning statement, but in your advertising, you're not saying those words.
No.
You're not making the consumer think that.
Yeah.
And that really helped us kind of bring us back in line with the trade sector. Not as much with the DIY sector, but we're pushing that. We're still going, but there's a lot of DIY brands out there that have a heads up on us.
I mean, that's the thing with DIY. So we're heavily invested in Fischer's marketing and brand positioning and how we tailor content and social media marketing towards that brand positioning. So, our big thing with installers, tradespeople is we're looking for those people who care about longevity, care about doing a good job. The kind of guys and girls that have got some of the best tools, therefore they use the best consumable products like a wall plug, a screw, whatever. They want to make sure that if they put something in, it's well secured because first of all, they want to do a good job. They care about that kind of stuff. That's part of their values, but also they don't want to get called back. If they're an actual like self-employed tradesperson, they put up I don't know, 500 quid's worth of radiator. They want to make sure that radiator stays on the wall regardless of what's going to happen over the next 10 years. That's
kind of like the key value proposition there you've just hit, but it's still so hard to get the consumer to think like that.
Yeah.
Oh, your wall plugs are twice the price of a standard wall plug.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're putting up a 500 quid telly on the wall. Like, what's it matter? Like, it's a couple of quid.
And there was always that thing that the thing that we struggled with early on. It didn't struggle with it. I think it's actually okay. But the thing that came up a lot was, I know Fischer. When we as Dissident started to promote that we were working with Fischer, we were telling our trades sort of friends, they're like, yeah, Fischer are good. They're really good, but they're too expensive.
Yeah,
they're good but expensive. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way here that's like everyone knows that Fischer are the best. Or one of the best, or whatever, real high quality. There's always that but. I'm like, well, this is that thing. Like, Dark Mines are one of the nicest boots you can get, but they're expensive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
People still buy them.
People still buy them. You know what I mean, because they are the boots you get for the most part. So it's not a far cry from going from not too expensive, just expensive, because expensive means quality, right? So it's positioning your brand in a way that exudes quality. But the reason why I was getting at that was, do DIYers care about price? Because a lot of the time they're not consuming a product on the level that perhaps a tradesperson is or an installer. So my thought has always been like, are they like an easier market because they're kind of looking for like good packaging, essentially? Like I imagine perhaps a DIYer is going into buying some wall plugs without a great deal of industry knowledge and prior sort of interaction with all of these different brands that are options for, let's say, a wall plug. Are they literally just going on, that looks fancy, I'll get that because it's £5?
There's definitely an element of that. I think packaging sells in DIY, but also like consistency sells in DIY.
Yes.
So like if there's consistency sells in all marketplaces, and it's kind of one thing that every brand should always follow, like be consistent in your messaging, but even more so in DIY. And it's through the whole scope of marketing practices. Like if you look at some big like DIY brands, they've been there selling the same product in the same place in the store with the same packaging for like 5-10 years. And that helps just to breed the trust. There might not even be like a certain message that they're trying to get across to a DIY user. It's in good packaging. It's in a decent place within the store. So it's that kind of like panic buy. Oh, I need these yes. items. I'll just pick these. But price doesn't come into it at all, I don't think. Because if you think of how a DIY customer consumes product, they'll consume product in very minor quantities. So you're talking like packs of 4, packs of 8, because they buy enough to do that job right. So you see the differentiation of price between a pack of 4, say, let's use a great brand example, 3M and Command. So you can pick that up in any DIY store, right?
Yeah.
And they've done a great job at marketing to the consumer because everybody knows Command, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the one thing that everybody knows, and it works well as well. But they're always in the same place in store. Packaging, always the same. Their advertising is always the same. It's very clean. It's very kind of, it's not subtle at all. It's like, use this product to stick up this picture frame, but it doesn't need to be subtle, right? It's not trying to make it look cool. It's trying to make it work.
It's almost like one step up from like JML, isn't it? I've always found those kinds of things. It's just like, that's really clever.
But have you ever bought anything from JML?
No,
exactly.
No, exactly. So they've got this market where they've got this thing that works incredibly well, and they've gone like the step further than JML in terms of like this is a really clever thing. Let me show you how it works without like the sort of the JML kind of like things. The TVs that are auto playing in shops, and you go, that's really innovative. Well done. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how they did it, but they've done it.
Yeah.
Same with frog tape, right? Like I've always thought about like frog tape and things like that. Like those kind of things. But I've never picked up a roll of frog tape and in as someone who isn't at all handy, and certainly not a tradesperson. But if I've needed something like masking tape or whatever, I just go to frog tape because I'm like, it looks cool. I really don't care about the price.
Don't know what it does.
Whatever, you know, like I can put myself in the mindset of a DIY and go, that looks fun. So like that, but I've never looked at the price.
Yeah, exactly. It's a second thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if you were to look at the price, like I was saying about Command or even something like screws, price of 8 compared to the price of a box of 50 that a tradie would buy, you're probably paying the same price, but for in trade a much larger quantity, but it's not in cool packaging, or it's not in cool packaging. Sorry, but it's not in like really DIY focused packaging. So yeah, if I look back now, probably like when we first launched Duro Power, the best place to launch it would have been in DIY because the consumer would not have cared about price.
Yeah, it's a good looking product as well.
Yeah, it looks cool, right? It's like 2 colours. It's got these little fins on it. It's got serrated edges. It's like perfect DIY product. But we started off with, and this kind of harps back to the consistency of our new brand position, let's say. We started off like advertising in trade, basically just pushing trade. Like this is where we saw the most kind of like capital gains for Duro Power. I mean Duroline in general, basically. So we just did it like, I think we've been pushing Duroline now for like 6 years. Same messaging behind each single piece of advertising, same kind of layout, same kind of structure. Packaging's always been the same. The price has gone up and down depending on market dependence and what people are willing to pay. But it's been a hard slog for like 5-6 years, pushing the same product, trying to find a new way to display the same messages to the consumer.
Yeah.
But like I think maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, it just switched. Like the taps just started flowing. Like people were just, yeah, we love this product. We know this product. Yeah, we've seen it everywhere. We've heard about it everywhere. I've never used it, but I'll use it now because I trust it.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of consistent kind of working off the positioning statement in the background, but it's the same messaging to the same consumer. They know where to find it. They know what the content's going to look like. They know what the performance advertising's like on GA. They've seen it everywhere. So yeah, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden like somebody switched, just flicked it on and it's working.
Yeah.
It's great.
All of a sudden, Dureline is like a massively talked about product.
Yeah, it's our top performing product now.
Yeah.
Like in terms of growth, in terms of value to the business, it is the top performing product group for Fischer UK, which is crazy.
And it's such a simple product, isn't it? You know,
It's not simple. There's loads of R&D.
Yes, absolutely. I think the beauty of something like this is in the simplicity of how it works and what it does, and I think it's like, although like we've really pushed trades for the last 3-4 years or whatever. With Dureline, and there's always been an element of DIY sort of attached to it, but it's never been a pure focus for us. Like, I don't want to get too heavy into a particular product that we all nerd out about in Dissident. It's kind of perfectly positioned for DIY because it works and it's it's really forgiving. You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those kind of things we speak to. And again, I'm not a tradie. I'm not even really a DIYer. But you hear the kind of the feedback, and it's like it just feels right when you're driving a screw, and it just feels right. You know when it's like when it's been engaged, and it's like.
So I think you've been brainwashed by our messaging.
Maybe, or
it's all the years of pushing it down.
All of the influencers have started influencing me. I think that's what it is.
But I think maybe one reason why we haven't gone into that heavily into DIYs, it's maybe like a problem of like background. Like I know trade really well.
Yes,
I know the consumer base. I know the installers. So because a lot of our marketing is kind of like gut marketing. So like, I know that's going to work. Let's try it. Let's look at the KPIs after, but I know that's going to work. So you kind of like tend as a market manager to stick to the places that you know you're going to do well in.
Yes.
Because you've got a limited amount of resource, limited amount of budget. So where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? The place that you know.
Yeah.
And it's a failing, but it's also a positive because you want to invest in somewhere where you're going to get your biggest ROI, right? And that's always been trade for me and trade for Fischer.
I think that it definitely comes into it that you've got a lot more tradies buying a lot more products than you would perhaps DIYers. It's still a big market, DIY, but
huge, yeah.
But your tradies, they're knocking up bathrooms left, right, and centre. They're putting in kitchens. They're going to need a lot of products compared to a DIYer. But it's again still a huge industry, and I'm excited to tap into that to the point where I was saying the other day. I don't know, did I tell you about this? I've been thinking about like actually setting up like a DIY like social account, and actually like from the point of view of like I would like I'm not handy at all. I always feel like a fraud when I'm like working with all these like construction brands, and I'm not handy at all. Like sometimes I'll get in the marketing material, and you can just tell I don't know how to hold a drill. But I thought about it the other day because I do like. We did a video with my daughter, and it was installing a Duo Power and a Duotech. Duotech's my favorite Fischer product. We did 2 videos, and actually one of them actually went out on Fischer's socials. And I was like, that was really cool. My daughter, this was a couple of years ago. She was really into it. She'd have been like 5 at the time, I reckon, something like that. That's a cool concept. You know what I mean? Just like father learns DIY because he'd like to pass that kind of knowledge on to his daughter or something like that. But the content's kind of together.
There's like a longevity feel to that, like passing on the expertise of the father to the daughter. And I like that.
But secretly, I've got to try and learn it myself. But I thought it'd be a good opportunity as well to like actually. If there's a big push for DIY, like then at the very least I can talk about it a little bit. Yeah. I've got some experience in DIY, especially if I'm just screwing up my house left, right, and centre.
Don't worry, I've worked in the industry for 14 years and still can't put a shelf on straight.
Yeah, it's funny.
We'll all be imposters. It's fine.
But anytime you do put a shelf in, you look really angry when you do it. From
Yeah, I don't get that. Like every bit of content, I'm dreading seeing this. I won't watch this podcast. I hate my voice on any sort of film, but yeah, I'm always angry on everything.
You look so angry, yeah. But if you look at my daughter's face, if you go onto Fischer's socials, scroll back far enough, you will see a video of my daughter doing an install of, I think it's the Duotech. And she looks so angry when she's putting. So obviously, it's not just you.
Yeah, maybe it's
when she's driving the drill in through the plasterboard, she looks like she could kill someone.
It's that raw animal desire to drill something.
I love it. So, what's worked for Fischer? Like, I think we could probably talk about the fact that Fischer is a global brand. Mm-hmm. They're massive. It's, they started in Germany. And then so they've got all these different subsidiaries, right?
Yeah.
Across the world, all these different countries that have their own sort of Fischer slice of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
What's worked specifically for Fischer UK over your time period of working with Fischer?
In terms of marketing or in terms of product? Marketing.
In terms of marketing,
yeah. Okay. I think it's just being UK centric. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have an international marketing team that produce a lot of kind of a lot of assets for all the subsidiaries, and they do a really good job on providing the deliverables to us. But they're not always focused to individual marketplaces. Mm-hmm. So as you can imagine, big European business based in Germany, they're going to focus more on Central Europe. And then that works for a lot of the subsidiaries in Central Europe because the content's really good, the assets are really crisp, clean. They deliver a lot of like literature and stuff for them as well, which works really well.
The renders are cool as well. Like, there's some great like 3D stuff that you can only get from head office because they're developing the product, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they work really well, and we use those in the UK. But what I think has worked for every subsidiary is just the corporate design refresh, like what I was talking about before. So big, bold red, big, bold logo, always stick to that. And I think every subsidiary now does stick to that. I think that's one core thing that has worked for all of the different countries, like stick to our brand architecture, basically. I say that, and I realise that I'm wearing a T-shirt that doesn't stick to the brand architecture. That's all right. That's just for fun.
Well, that's it. It's the UK. Yeah. We're rule breakers.
Oh, God, what a bit of spiel wearing this then. But yeah, sticking to the brand architecture really works because it's kind of like that unified front. People know when they see a brand box, when they see the logo, that's Fischer, right?
Yeah.
It's core for any brand to do that across their kind of touch points in the marketing sphere. But what's worked for Fischer UK is being very UK centric in our advertising.
Yes.
And in our advertising concepts. Like we moved pretty much from like when I first joined Fischer away from using a lot of like the broadcast media stuff that was came from centralized marketing because it just didn't suit our consumer. And I think the UK are lucky because we have a very different consumer to any other kind of European country. You can maybe align it to kind of like Australian or American construction workers as well, or tradesmen, maybe Australian because we're a very close country anyway. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge difference between the way that kind of the Europeans consume the content and what they want to see, like clean, crisp, like really focused on product, really focused on installation. Don't need to make it look cool. Like they don't care if it's cool or not. They want to know, yes, this has been engineered perfectly and it will work in every situation. Whereas I think the UK consumer, they want to know it looks cool.
Yeah.
They want to know, I'm buying this really cool product. Even if it's a fixing, like fixings aren't cool, but if it looks cool, then I'm going to buy that.
Yeah, fixings are cool, I think. Fixings are one of the cooler products in construction. But I think you're right. There's a lot of European content. It's almost like fantasy construction, I think.
Yeah.
It's like they're in this like perfect environment that's kind of and like the models are pretty like good looking and everyone's like pristine. All of their clothes are pristine and branded and stuff like that. And then you get to the UK and it's like you still want to have an element of like, the protagonist, let's say in a particular film, a tradesperson, a tradeswoman, tradesman, are still like, you kind of still want them to be, what's the word where it's like, it's relatable, but also you're looking to like attain it like
I think it's realism though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a level up. You know what I mean?
If you're producing a fairy tale advert that doesn't mean anybody to anything. It's never going to happen in real life.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate.
And like you said before, like I'm just thinking back to some of the content that I've seen, like the construction worker on the site with all branded clothing from the brand that he's using. Like, is that ever going to happen? Is that believable? No, it's not, is it? Unless maybe you're like a Milwaukee or something like that. And you do some nice clothes.
A proper fanboy.
But you'll never get one person just wearing head to toe that one brand. So it just doesn't relate. And I think that is where our kind of concept for our advertising and kind of everything that we do in terms of marketing is, let's make it relatable. Let's understand who the guy or who the girl is buying this product, and let's advertise to them. And let's make them kind of like easily think, oh yeah, that's a brand for me.
Yes.
I do stuff like that. I look like that. I want to work with that product. It's kind of making like that cognitive decision a lot quicker and a lot easier because it's relatable. They don't have to think, oh, do I do stuff like that? Is that a brand that I could use? No, it's there. That's me. That looks cool. Yeah, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And I think through all of the past like 4 or 5 years, that's what we've kind of focused on. And it just works.
It's one of the, I see when I speak to other brands who have got their head office in, especially Germany, but like just in general, like mainland Europe, this kind of thing of like, we'd love to work with you, but we get all our content from head office, and like, you know, it's really hard for me to say, but yeah, it doesn't look right over here. It's great for them, and some of it's really good, but a lot of it you just sort of think doesn't translate. It doesn't translate well to the UK. Translates really well to all of the other countries that you in Europe, apart from the UK,
which is not the one you're in.
Which is probably the smallest market typically, and it's really a tough sell to these brands that we're looking to work with that are just like saying, we don't have any sort of resource to do anything in terms of like localized content, but all their content just looks foreign, and I wonder, like, for these, especially like things like clothing brands and some of the sexier products like the power tools, like if they did actually put a little bit more budget into localized content that's like more relevant, not just influencers, but like proper media content, whether it'd be more successful over here.
I think it definitely would. Like you even like look at some of the bigger consumer brands who do kind of centralized marketing well. They'll still produce localized content for each market.
Yes.
And you kind of think of some of the bad ones. You kind of think of some of the smaller like cleaning product brands, and you all know the ones I mean about. Like you watch the advert and it's a mum and a child like cleaning a window, but it's so obviously overdubbed from like a Spanish ad.
Yeah,
and you can really tell. And then you go on holiday to Spain and you see that advert, you go, oh, that's that. Yeah,
that's the original.
Yeah. So there's a good there's a good way of doing it, and there's a bad way of doing it. I think the big consumer brands, okay, never worked for one, but you see the different advertising types in every single country. So you go on a holiday, you see a Coke ad. Okay, it looks the same, it kind of has the same feeling as a Coke ad in your own country, but it's slightly different because it's tailored to that marketplace.
Yes.
Perfect marketing.
Yeah.
So why can't kind of construction brands do the same? Because you see a lot of good content, but it's not UK specific.
Yeah.
And you could have such a bigger impact just changing some minute little things, like the guy's dressed differently, he's a bit more rugged. So that the advertising copy itself looks a bit cooler, or it speaks differently to the UK consumer. It's not rocket science, right?
No, you get the look right, you get the feel right, you get the messaging right. It's like 3 or 4 sort of core components that are specific to a target market. You
still speak for your brand, but just in a slightly different way to hit a different consumer. Right?
It's almost like a lot of times it's just a tonal change. It's just thinking like, well, let's say we take a piece of marketing from Europe, and you go, okay, well, the messaging's nice. What I want to do is stay along those lines of that message. We're just going to tweak it, and then the tone of the video or the still, we're going to tweak. We're going to make it a little bit more gritty, a little bit more rock and roll. We're going to make it a little bit more sexy for the UK market, less corporate.
I think that's what kind of some of these centralized brands are scared of. Like if we change our kind of like core imagery or core kind of like content delivery, it's not going to look like the brand anymore. But it is. It's just going to look like the brand in a different space.
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to change kind of the ethos of your brand just by tweaking it. The messaging's still going to be there. What you're trying to tell the consumer is still there. It's just a lot more focused and a lot more targeted.
I think there's going to be a lot of brands that they're so tied into their brand guidelines, and you must not tweak this. And I think in some circumstances, I understand their thought process behind that, because you just when you see these brands that are like really inconsistent, not huge brands obviously, but these guys that the website looks completely different to the imagery is all over the place. Their socials are a mess because there's no consistent messaging and consistent look and feel. They just doesn't look right, doesn't resonate. So I get it, but I think for the UK especially, you can give them a bit of leeway.
I think there's time and place for brand guidelines. Like on kind of any kind of corporate communication, like delivery, you need to follow corporate guidelines like to the T, and we do it. And okay, it might not always look the prettiest, it might not always be what we want, but kind of when it's that corporate communication to a consumer, to another business, then I think yes, that works.
Yes.
Because when you're delivering like kind of pure information on a product or on a service, that if all around the world it looks exactly the same, and there's a lot of work gone into the background of it in terms of your typeface, in terms of your positioning of your brand logo, so it's all consistent. I think that works really well. I think when it comes to kind of like the more creative advertising, then it doesn't work as much.
No, yeah, I think that there's certain elements that you think, well, that's got to stay consistent across the board.
You didn't get me in trouble with the brand police now.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time.
No.
What's the focus now for Fischer? Like what as a marketer, as a sales manager, like we're coming up to this is going to age the podcast because this is probably going to come out next year. But we're coming up to the end of 2024. Like, what's the focus now? Are you continuing along the same veins? Are you pivoting?
Yeah, I think one mistake like marketers and market managers make is changing too quickly.
Yes.
Like we're not a consumer brand yet. We don't own 100% of the market space. We're not fully integrated into trade yet. So why move away from it and start a different campaign or start a different like tact? We'll evolve from what we're doing for 2024 and for the past few years, but the messaging will be the same. We'll do it in a more creative way. We'll stick to kind of like the position that we've aligned ourselves to. I think there will be more avenues for Fischer into DIY, and I think that's going to be a big part of our sales and marketing directive for 2025. Like we miss out on this huge consumer segment that we do know how to market to. We have done in the past. We know how to sell product to them, but we just haven't put that resource into there. So I think that'll be a big part. And yeah, I think moving to try and become more of a consumer brand as Fischer is kind of my end game at Fischer. Like if I can get Fischer to be a consumer brand and to be known by like 100% of the market, like that's me done. That's my marketing career sorted.
Yes.
I'm happy. We did like I think 3 or 4 years ago we did a bit of international market research. We asked some like key questions to every single to a sample consumers in every single country, and Fischer UK came out really bad. And this is like 5 or 6 years ago, let's say. So the unprompted, do you know who Fischer fixings are? Yeah, I think it's 14% came.
Okay,
and that's pretty terrible. I was shocked by that. I thought, we're much bigger than that, but no. So we kind of try and track this on like a yearly basis. But the last time I tracked it was the start of this year, and a completely unsegmented sample of the UK population. So not in trade, not in DIY, just everybody. Just took a sample of that, put out a market research questionnaire. It's now up to 50%.
Whoa.
Unprompted.
14 to 50.
Yeah, 50% of everybody in the UK know who Fischer fixings are.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, it then went only 30% know where to buy Fischer fixings.
Okay.
So it's a little problem that we might need to look at as Fischer as a brand and kind of like our channel structure in terms of sales. But still, 50% unprompted, do you know who Fischer fixings are? I think that's a great result in like 5 years. It's crazy that we've come so far in such a short space of time by focusing on the same thing.
Yeah.
And it just harps back to consistency. Consistency breeds performance. It's relevant for everybody. Every marketer, like, keep it consistent, like, keep on going. And yeah, it's I think we need to get higher. Like, it'd be good if we got to like the 70% and then got the usage percentages up. So there's a lot of those 50% that wouldn't use the product, but they've heard of it. So it's kind of looking at those metrics now and kind of like trying to tick those up next. And yeah.
Be interesting, like, after if there is going to be like essentially more of a focus on a DIY audience. Be interesting because, like I say, you've dabbled in that a little bit, but it's not been a core focus. It'd be interesting to see what the results are. Now we've got trade. We've not got 100% of the market, but we've got a big chunk of the trade market. Does DIY make a big difference to that number?
Well, I think we've got that key metric now. So without marketing in DIY, we've got that kind of consumer awareness metric. So it'd be really interesting to see, like, okay, let's do 30% of our marketing that we would have done to trade to DIY next year. Halfway through the year, review the metrics, see where we are. Yeah, like, that'd be cool. Yeah. And I think that is for DIY, that is the metric you focus on. Like, yes. Do people know your product? Yeah. Right. If it's 100% yes, great. Then you look at the conversion strategy. Then you think, okay, they know it. Why aren't they buying it? So get that knowledge out there first, and then build on that. It's almost like, you speak to anybody that's, well, let's say DIYers, but it could just be anybody. Like, have you heard of WD-40? And it's like it's such a well-known brand. I imagine a lot of people don't know what it's for. In general, like they assume you spray it on something and it stops creaks or whatever. But like they might not know, they'll be super educated on what the brand is, but they know the brand. Yeah, it's kind of like pushing into that. Did a bit of research into what the hell did WD-40 do about 30 years ago? I think they were just around for like 100 years. Is that what it is? No one else bothered to do anything close. But if you can get to that level where it's just like it's one of those products that every single person will have in their shed somewhere. Yeah, it's mad. Who were we speaking to the other day? Loctite. And it's like if you've done anything with like bikes or cars, you know what Loctite is. And I got like really nostalgic kind of looking at that. And I don't think they're not a huge consumer brand, but like if you're a little bit into like engineering or mechanics and stuff, you know who they are. Or if you're into like maintaining bikes and stuff. But like that, it's mad because their packaging, their look and feel has not changed for like 25 years, like or more. I don't know. But yeah, it's synonymous with that particular area. It's the same with WD-40. I don't even know any competitors for WD-40. No, I just if I need that. Oh, WD-40. There will be tons of them, and they're just like scratching, like trying to get an extra 1% of like the market. And the market manager's doing nothing. He's sat there like, I don't need to do anything this year. WD-40, isn't it? Yeah. I love it. That's what I want to be. I want to be that man. Yeah. It's Stewart Power, innit? Yeah, it's done. Yeah. It's a no-brainer to the whole industry. I wonder if there are. I'd be interested to hear if there are who are the competitors to WD-40 and how do they try and compete? I'd love to get one of those guys in. Are there any particular channels, like going really nerdy into marketing now? Any particular channels that Fischer are focusing on, or sort of a different way of tackling that is? Are there any particular channels that are working incredibly well for Fischer in terms of obviously social channels or PR, whatever, any sort of marketing verticals that are working particularly well? Yeah, so always for Fischer, Instagram's kind of been our go-to. We stepped away from Facebook quite a while ago, just to do with the complexity and the poor performance of the advertising spend. I think you rarely hit the people that you want to on Facebook. But Instagram is a channel for trade for us, and it's solely focused on trade. There's kind of very little technical content. There's no content focused on engineers. But I like that about our Instagram channel. Yes. It is the channel for trade for Fischer. Yes. Where we have kind of developed more recently is putting a lot more money into performance marketing. So putting a lot more through Google Ads and focusing on our SEO, which is then kind of trying to position a different sales channel of Fischer, so our kind of engineering side, a lot more differently because it doesn't hit as well on social channels, or if it does, it's not particularly interesting unless you want to look and find it,
yes.
which is where GA and SEO actually really work because people are looking for it and people are finding it, right?
Yeah.
They're not just flicking through your socials and stop on a 4-hour talk about, I don't know, BSA 2022 or something like that. Like, nobody's flicking through Instagram and went, oh, that's a post on the golden thread. I'll stop and watch that. No, it's not happening. So that's kind of a more recent big push. Like we've always worked with SEO and Google Analytics, Google Ads, sorry. But it's been much more of a focus, and it seems to be really kind of resonating with people who are looking for that particular kind of content. And especially within the engineering world, obviously they reviewed the report from Grenfell the other day, and a lot of information came out from that. But one of the biggest kind of regulation changes has prompted us to really kind of hyper invest really quickly into pushing people to this very long form but very detailed content is like the BSA 2022 and the golden thread, which is all about correct product, correct place, correct installation, not overturning specs. So that's been one area that's kind of still in development, but it's working really well because it's that information share, it's that knowledge share, it's positioning Fischer as an expert in this field, like we are, but we just don't shout about it.
Yes.
So I think that's just going to grow and grow for all businesses. Regulation is going to be huge moving forward. It's like you're not going to be able to get away from regulation anymore.
It's almost like a marketing or a USP for a lot of these brands, isn't it? You know, like the Grenfell stuff, as tragic as it was, has delivered for some brands who are able to get these certain certificates, relating to like fire safety, for instance. Like all you do then is you just market the crap out of the fact that you've got that certificate. Like our product is suitable in these types of situations. Check it out. And it's kind of like an easy sell because everyone's way too scared. I mean, or it's just completely illegal to not be speccing products like that. So we work with quite a few brands that are just like, you just need to shout about this. It's an easy sell. Yeah. You know what I mean? All the other stuff's kind of like a moot point because like there's only about 3 other companies that have this kind of certificate or whatever. I think that's really interesting. So Instagram, huge for the tradies. Facebook, not so much. LinkedIn, YouTube, stuff like that.
Yeah, then YouTube as well. Kind of never really been a huge focus for us because I don't know. I think you need to have a large following or be kind of a consumer brand to kind of drive that viewership. Like, I think influencers do a great job because they create that kind of that buzz around themselves. Yes. But it's very hard to create that buzz around the brand unless you're Coca-Cola, Nike, blah, blah, blah. People aren't going to automatically consume the content that you deliver unless they're interested in it. And it's now working to deliver that interest, to start building a base on YouTube, a base of kind of solid core fans, and then pushing it out to mass market and kind of focusing on the areas, on the reasons, why people consume content on YouTube.
Long form specifically.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of what's the key points that we need to get across to kind of retain viewers and to increase our share and to increase our share of the watched hours. Yes. Because our share of watched hours is very low at the moment. Okay, when we push a video, it gets more watched hours, but that's not the metric you want to look at, right? It's like, okay, 80% of your viewers watched 80% of your video. Yeah. You don't want 200,000 people watched 1 second. Yeah. Okay. The hours might be great, but you've just spent that money for nobody to watch your video. So I think for 2025, it'd be really interesting to try and develop some content people actually want to consume and actually take something away with them. Yes. Like you were talking about earlier about learning DIY and then being able to pass it down. That's a really interesting concept. And I think maybe that's something that Fischer we can develop on, like training people to use Fischer products, obviously, but in different areas of this kind of day-to-day life. Yeah. And we've done a few of those bits on YouTube already, which actually performed really well. Yes. But I don't think we've kind of put it into an exciting kind of we didn't serialize it.
No.
And I think that's one of the huge things about YouTube, serialization. You need to serialize your content. People need to expect another episode, another installation on a weekly, monthly, 2-weekly, whatever basis. And then that's how you kind of start to build your viewers and build your engagement rate. And it kind of just started like half a year ago, we started like really focusing on what we were delivering on YouTube.
Yes.
Obviously, you got to put advertising spend into everything. Otherwise, it sits there, right? So,
Yeah. Especially when you've actually invested quite a lot of money into the content as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just filming all this stuff on your phone, you don't need to be doing stuff like that because it's not, you know, you're not lost a ton of investment doing that. You just lost time. Whereas if you're actually producing like, you know, high production value sort of content, and you just let it go out organically, unless it's like, you know, amazing, it's just not going to get. And even then, even if it is amazing, like you've got to build some consistency on YouTube. It's interesting though, because like if you think about Coca-Cola, like I would never think about like going on to like Coca-Cola or Pepsi's YouTube. You know what I mean?
No.
So you have to have a reason almost, don't you? And I think because companies like Fischer Fixings, construction brands, they solve a problem. They're not like a consumable that's just like nice to drink or whatever.
Yeah.
They're solving an actual problem. Then you can focus on the problems and you can educate. And I think, you know, Coca-Cola probably do have a really good YouTube. I've just never thought to go on it.
But do you think it's full of just their ads? So people go to watch their ads?
I don't know. I would hope that the marketers are good enough that it would almost be like who was it? I think it's Red. Red Bull's a really classic example of like if their YouTube is full of stuff that's not related to their drink at all.
Yeah.
It's just related to their target market.
Well, because they're doing an excellent job with all their like extreme sports sponsorships. Now I think they also kind of sponsor a German football team as well. So they're so diversified, it's crazy. Like.
Yeah, but they're, for the most part, that you know all their advertising, all their marketing is literally just entertainment for their target audience, and they've become such a big brand that. You know, you just associate that kind of stuff with Red Bull. You could totally do the same with any kind of construction brand, couldn't you? You could just go, here's a series that becomes very familiar. Could be a podcast, could be whatever. You just slap the name on there, and it's just entertaining content or educational content for a particular audience that happens to be your target buyer.
I think that's the two segments in it. It's entertaining or educational, and like. YouTube is the new Google, right?
Yeah.
You go on to, even though it's part of the same business, you go onto YouTube, you search what you would have searched in Google. So all the metrics are exactly the same as Google would be, and it's kind of delivering either those two segments that we just spoke about.
Yeah.
And it's getting the balance right. Like you don't want to be too educational, and people don't then stay on your channel and watch your other videos. But also, you don't want to be that company that just takes the piss all the time.
It's just naff.
Yeah. What I think would be interesting would to see how much influencers have to spend on YouTube advertising compared to brands.
Okay.
And what kind of the relation between, okay, we have to spend 50% less because we've developed this persona around our kind of YouTube channel and our own influencer team compared to what a brand has to spend to get the same deliverable.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? And I think it would be like the types of content as well that would make a big difference. Wouldn't it? The difference between what the content the brand makes compared to the influencer will have a big impact on that. It's a tough one, really, because when you think about it's a bit like LinkedIn in that respect. When YouTube, if you follow a person, it's a bit like that kind of thing of like the Richard Branson versus Virgin. Like you're more likely to follow Richard Branson than Virgin. So influencers, content creators, and stuff like that. If it's an individual that you happen to engage with, then that's probably going to be more successful than just a brand, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially on things like YouTube. If you can do a hybrid where it's like the content is a particular individual, but they're massively associated with a brand, and their branding is all over everything. You think of Mark Tiff and Unilight, or something like that. You associate Mark Tiff with Unilight. So any content that Mark Tiff makes is no stranger to promoting Unilight during his content and stuff like that. But essentially, because he's been so synonymous with it, and I think I believe he's sponsored by Unilight. Don't quote me on that. what you technically could do is you could find another marketer, you could find another influencer like that who's, really engaged with your particular product, and you could just go, make this. Here's money. Go and make this stuff, and we're going to slap our name on it. Like that would totally work on YouTube, for instance, and socials.
It's the rise of influencer marketing, though, isn't it? Like it used to be, you slap a celebrity face on a product, and that association between that celebrity and that product sells it for you. And every time you see that celebrity, you think of Red Bull, you think of Nestle, you think of whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Now it's, you work with an influencer, that influencer becomes synonymous with that brand, and now they sell it for you.
Yes.
And it's kind of just, it's gone huge. And it's really weird how people kind of have moved away from trusting celebrity endorsement and would much rather trust a real life person who's working with that brand, who uses it every day.
Yes.
And it's not just, we know that brand has just paid them X amount of money and they're just saying, yeah, it's good.
Because the construction influencer marketing is very different to perhaps cosmetics, where you see typically it's female influencers, and they're like, it's so blatant. Like it's like the whole piece of the content was funded by this brand, and they make almost no effort to try and hide that. But at the same time, they kind of do. So it becomes a bit naff and a bit fake and stuff like that. Whereas I think construction, the guys who do it well, it's long-term stuff, isn't it? It's like we hear about it all the time on the podcast, that just shilling out one product, then a different product, then a different product, then a different product, and they're going through all these different brands. They just lose all their authenticity.
Yeah, we're back to that point where we said before, it's the realism.
Yeah.
Like, it's realistic. Okay, so I believe it.
Yeah.
Whereas like you say, just, okay, I've been sent this, I'm going to try it. Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
it's that light bulb moment. Oh no, yeah.
But you could, I think there's an element of like, I use this all the time, this is really, really good, as opposed to like, you could totally be the kind of person that's like, Fischer have sent me this thing, or whoever have sent me this thing. I have no idea what it's like. I'm going to try it. That's kind of almost a little bit more authentic. It's the kind of the join me as I do my such and such. Obviously, I put my such and such thing on that's completely different to last week. It's like, and you've just been paid for, and people can just see through it now. But I think actually, construction influencers are actually quite a lot more savvy, and because it's still in its infancy.
I think maybe in other industries, people just do it for a payday.
Exactly.
They don't really believe in the brand that they're supporting. Like, obviously, I don't know any, but you could just get the impression that they don't believe in the brand that they're working with, or they wouldn't use it on a daily basis, or they know they've just got a big payday.
Yeah.
Whereas with the construction market and influencers in particular, because they're using it, they're not going to align themselves to a brand that they don't trust, they don't believe in.
No.
They won't use. Whereas like in other industries, you kind of get the impression that it is like that.
Yeah, they're just, it's just shelling out. There are people in the construction industry that do just shell out for a payday. We know them, don't we, Key? You know what I mean? We're familiar. We won't mention any names.
I reckon Key would sell his soul for a payday.
Yeah. I say it all the time. Like I would be the worst influencer, because I would shell out to every brand known to mankind. It's like as an agency, we're very much like that. We don't have to, like, before we start working with a particular brand, we don't care if it works. We don't care if it's good, do we? You know what I mean? It's like you're paying us a service to market it. Influencers is a little bit different, because you're paying them for their authenticity and the trust that their audience has with them. So they have to kind of understand the product, especially if it's new to them. Understand, test it. Let me see if it's any good. Because I don't want to wreck the trust that I have with our audience. We don't have an audience, not much of an audience anyway. And our audience certainly doesn't care if we think a product's good or not, because that's not what we're saying necessarily. It's an interesting kind of difference between influencers and agencies, where that classic example of an influencer's working with a brand, they decide to not work with them anymore. Next week you see them with the competitor brand, and you think it's a bit nasty. Like, it doesn't work. Like their audience loses a bit of that trust and stuff like that, If it was an agency, they'd be like, no, it makes sense.
Yeah, but the influencer is selling their believability as a
Exactly.
person, right? And you're selling your skills as an agency.
Exactly.
It's completely different.
But yeah, so which means like you know, I would hate to be an influencer from that perspective, because I'd be like, I would be looking for who's paying us the most. Whereas those guys have to make that honest decision of just like, yes, I might get a better deal here, and I do like the product, but I like this product better. And I have to go with my gut.
It's got to be difficult because there's a shelf life to everybody, isn't there? Especially
100%.
on social. So
Yeah.
you've got to make that bang for the buck, but you've got to be believable at the same time. So
And most of these guys aren't full-time influencers anyway. So there's a little bit of flexibility, I think, in that, the fact that most of them have got jobs anyway, which I think is cool. Typically, we have this conversation with brands like Fischer, Stabilo, you know, Vera or Wera. That, you know, essentially they are not selling direct to consumer; they're selling to distributors. So they've got this like balance of their end user, which they're kind of marketing. A lot of the time, they market their product to, and then they've got their actual buyer, which is the retailer, the distributor, or whatever. Yeah. How do you guys sort of tackle? How do you specifically tackle that kind of mindset of almost like there's like a marketing split there?
So this is quite simple. Like, we completely ignore it.
Okay.
Harping back to when I first joined Fischer, all of our marketing was B2B.
Okay.
What we did was deliverables for the distributor. Times change, things move on, marketing strategies change. Even back in my ITW days, it would just B2B marketing again.
Yes.
So very little focus on the actual end consumer. It's almost like saying, if it's in store, people will buy it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that mentality, which doesn't work. Especially in this day and age, people have choice, people have variation. So you need to pull that choice towards your own brand. So we kind of switched 100% from what we'd call like push marketing or push campaigns, which was B2B, trying to push product into there, trying to force demand from the distributor, rather than now, which is much more pull marketing, into pulling that demand from the end user into our distributors, and then that generates sales for us to the distributor. So it's a very kind of clean cut way to look at it, because we still deliver literature and kind of stuff like that into our distribution network.
POS and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's okay. It's still placement marketing. It's still a big part of marketing, but it's kind of not how we market the product anymore.
Yes.
They are kind of like tertiary marketing sectors that we still deliver but don't focus on, because at the end of the day, it's become harder and harder to convince a retailer to take your product if there's no demand for it.
Yes.
Because why would they? Because there's so much kind of reflection of similar products in other brands that they can say, well, I already stock X, Y, and Z, so why would I stock a third?
Exactly. I'm already getting sales on these. And I've only got limited space in my stores to have an amount of products. Something's got to give.
So we completely switched off our B2B focus. I'm not saying that we don't care about it, but what we found was that obviously when we're doing our B2C marketing, that consumer or advertising to that consumer will still hit our distributors. They'll still see our advertising content. They'll still see what we're putting out on socials. They'll still see like our white papers. They'll still see our performance marketing for Google Ads. They'll still see all of that. So it still encapsulates the B2B market, but it's not driven for them.
Yes.
It's not aimed at them. We're not trying to convert them. We're trying to convert the end consumer. And it works. Like we get, we've had kind of like, over the past few years, maybe like 20-25% customer growth in terms of just pure numbers, as in how many customers that we have. So people come into Fischer and say, we want to buy your product because we know there's a demand for it, which is great. It's
amazing.
Shining light on the marketing that we've done.
Inbound marketing.
Yeah, I use that all the time when I have a review with the MDs. I've delivered this, purely marketing. No,
they're calling us. We're not having to call them, and that's all based on driving demand from the end consumer.
Yeah, and same with existing customers who we want to expand our product mix with. We don't market direct to them. Yes, we have deliverables for them, but we wait for that pull to come from the end user, and then you don't even need to sell the product then, because they already want it. The demand's already there. Why waste your time on creating more demand from that distributor when it's already there?
Exactly.
You don't need to spend any resource on it. It's done. So completely upended our kind of way of thinking in terms of the marketing scope of what we did. We still do little bits like email marketing mainly goes to our distributor network, but it's not kind of focused. It's not resource heavy. It's this is us. This is our new product kind of thing. It's not. We don't really have kind of any KPI driven marketing based on our distributor network anymore. It's
When you think about it from the distributor and the retailer perspective, all of your marketing is generated towards getting them more sales. So so even before the product is launched in their stores, there's a high demand for it. When it does go in, they generate sales for that particular business, which of course generates sales for the actual manufacturer, the Fischer fixings. So it's great for them. Basically, they should do, but they don't have to do any marketing.
No. And I think that's kind of what made us think of this switch, because we always used to think, oh yeah, okay, so our retailer's going to sell this product for us. Like anybody that walks in is going to sell Fischer over somebody else. It doesn't happen in a retail environment.
No.
People pick up off the shelf what they want and take it to the till.
Yes.
And it's the same in any retail environment. Why would construction be different? Maybe when you get to the higher end, like technical specification and engineering work, yes, then it does get sold by other businesses and by other distributors. But when it's purely retail focused, it's never going to happen. So why don't we skip that side of the marketing? Do kind of the retailer's job for them as well, and just push the product to that consumer.
Just find them on their phones, and then they go, "Oh, that's interesting." And it's a mixed bag of. I mean, we could talk a little bit before we finish off, because I feel like what time are we on, Key?
1:17.
You're joking me. Feels like 2 hours. Flown by that.
Isn't that the other way around? Feels like 2 hours, but it's flown by an hour.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still a bit poorly. No, I was going to talk about like the mix of like what we do in terms of like the social and stuff. But I feel like we're at the point now where we can start thinking about finishing off the episode. This is going to have to get edited out, by the way, because I'm just not making any sense.
It's all right, I'm writing it down. Thank you.
What about so we talked a little bit about there's obviously influencer marketing. That's getting bigger. This year was a big push on that in terms of the industry as a whole. I think next year is going to be even bigger, but I think people are going to be a little bit more careful. I think brands are going to be a little bit more careful next year with the influencers, because I think there was a big surge of them this year, as in 2024. 2025, I think they're going to learn from some of the mistakes.
Yeah, I think also I think construction's had a pretty tough year this year, and I challenge any brand in construction to say, yeah, we've had a storming year and we're 30% up year, and I don't think it's happened, just because of the way that the economy's driven this year and the way that construction kind of output has gone this year. I think a lot of brands, including Fischer, will be a lot more careful with the resource that we have. And that doesn't mean spend's going to go down and things like that. I think it means that people will look more closely at the KPIs that they achieve with each piece of content, with each advertising campaign, and that includes influencers. I've never been one for kind of like data-driven marketing. I like KPIs as an afterthought to kind of prove that this is right, this is wrong, and then you kind of readjust and go again. I don't like looking at KPIs to then deliver a creative. I think that's kind of the wrong way around. And it's not the fun way around either.
Who wants to live like that?
Yeah. Come up with the great ideas first, spend a load of money on it, make some great content that you think is amazing, and then look if it's done well.
Yeah.
And then, it might be a bit counterintuitive, but it's fun in it. And if you don't have fun in life, it comes across in what you do in marketing. So
I think you've got to be. It's all about being careful about how you manage your budget. If you've got a tiny budget and you can only afford one thing, you have to be very careful about what that one thing is. If you can use that budget more efficiently, spread it across multiple different campaigns, and there's luxury to having a bigger budget. Obviously, that you can there are certain things that you can go, this isn't going to generate tons and tons of interest, but it is going to add to our sort of brand positioning of being more integrated and more aligned with let's say the construction worker, the tradesperson. So we're going to do a load of like thought leadership pieces or something around I don't know, like the behind the trade stuff that we did, which, you know, for the most part doesn't sell Fischer products at all. It's just Heroes Construction. It was like a fun project that we wanted to do, but we knew that it wouldn't generate sales.
No, but it's that position, back to that positioning statement. It basically feeds off that core positioning statement, and that's the way that we got it across in that kind of certain segment of our advertising. I think it might go that a lot of brands might go the way that their marketing has to prove its worth.
Yes.
Like and ROI, I hate the word ROI. Like, why people ask for, I know why they ask for ROI, but I bloody fucking hate the term, and I hate calculating it.
Yes.
Because a lot of time ROI is, I think it might do about this much a turnover.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Especially with your sort of strategy of like the B2B marketing basically is, for the most part, especially the digital side's turned off. You know what I mean? Well, I'm going straight to the consumers. That's it's a more long-winded process, but I would say it's a more it's going to be a more successful process, really long term. But how the hell did you get the data for that? You know, like you haven't got your retailers, your customer sales data, have you?
I'd love to have it, but and then it'd make my job a lot easier when I'm reporting it back.
Yeah, and also all of the Google Analytics, all that kind of thing, all the CRM, like you haven't got access to that, so you just go like you can only go off like what people are buying off you.
Yeah, you can only go off sales data, feel, and then if you want to spend money doing market research, that then takes away core budget from what you want to do in the creative space, but you probably will need to do it because somebody's going to want to know what bang they got for their buck, right? Yeah. And the only way to do it then is market research. Yeah. So I think that could take a much bigger role because people need to do market research to prove the worth of marketing.
Yes.
It's a great place to be in if you're a market research company, but in terms of like creative marketing, it's kind of like a step backwards a little bit. Let's hope it doesn't get there.
Hopefully. Future of construction, what are you thinking? Like marketing specifically, like we've seen this boom of social media. Still brands that are not really taking content in social media seriously, or they're just starting to have a little play with this. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some brands that still haven't really got a website properly.
There's a lot of brands that still don't have a website.
And it's like we always joke that construction marketing is about 10 years in the past for a lot of as an average. Predictions for the next couple of years of construction marketing. What do you think is going to happen?
I think kind of the power of your website is going to become key, especially with the increase in regulation within the industry. Not just on the technical side, kind of on like the trade side as well. So where you can deliver deliver information that is relevant to that regulation change or the increase of eyeballs on what you're actually doing, then I think that's going to massively increase. So people who don't have websites or don't have really accessible content on their websites really need to up their game, because if you can't find that information, and if you're working on a high-rise building, for example, and you can't find the information from the manufacturer that you need, you go to another manufacturer.
Yes.
You go to another construction company. So I think that's a huge part of construction that, like you say, 10 years behind, people have awful websites still. People have one-page websites that I know have said under construction for the past 5 years. It's like, how long are you taking? So I think like the performance and the UX of your website needs to be spot on. And Fischer's isn't. Like we still need to do a lot of work. So I'm not even saying that our website is a perfect example, but we're getting there. And 2025 will be, okay, we need to be there. We need to be the top of our game, especially when it comes to like delivering certification and regulation changes. Yeah, being that thought leader, occupying that space as an expert again. And then I kind of see like, because there's been such a huge growth of influencer marketing, like you were just previously saying, like I can see it kind of declining or teetering off because the more people that occupy the space, the less believable it becomes.
Yes.
Like I think there'll be like a core demand for certain influencers that are kind of like, okay, I believe them. They use their product.
The genuine article.
Yeah. They are the real deal. Whereas all the other ones who kind of like try and occupy the space, but they do a little bit here, do a little bit for that brand, kind of flip between what they actually, not what they advertise, but what they physically do as a job.
Yes.
So like I think it's much more believable where you have a guy who's an electrician and on his Instagram or wherever he posts his content, that's all he does. Or where it's a plumber and that's all he does. Not one day I'm a plumber, next day I'm a kitchen cabinet fitter, next day I'm building a wall.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't work.
No.
Like, okay, there are general tradespeople, but in terms of kind of the believability and pushing a product and pushing yourself, I think it'll be much more focused on sector or application rather than we do everything for everybody and watch us do it.
I think there'll be a push as well for long form content. I think YouTube is they've got more of a pull on the content creators at the moment because I think it's getting saturated on Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that. YouTube still, I feel a little bit untapped really as a platform because the barrier for entry is quite high, and the fact that you've got to produce a lot of content, like it's long form.
Well, that's it. If you don't know your stuff and you're doing a 60-minute video, you're kind of fucked, right? Like,
yeah.
What are you going to talk about for an hour if you don't know how to fit a toilet?
Because there's a lot of gimmicks out there on Instagram and TikTok where people just kind of show you the product and then it's like, oh, come over here, and then the camera moves. It's like everybody's doing it, whereas YouTube can be a little bit more. You can be a little bit more individual, and I quite like that. But also from an authenticity point of view, like the YouTubers of I'm a YouTube guy every single night. YouTube on the telly, and I've got certain accounts that I watch, especially in video production and photography and stuff, where if they tell me a product's good, I believe them because I've watched them for years and they've showed up in long form, 10-minute, 20-minute videos talking about how they did this or how they did that. I'm going to believe them when they say this product's actually decent.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody on Instagram, I don't know. I feel like long form is you get a little bit more of a relationship built. So I think that's going to happen, and I'm here for it. I quite like the idea of long form, and from a brand's point of view, I quite like the idea of going, I would like to be on your long form content, please.
I think it's the demographic that YouTube pulls as well. It's like probably that kind of slightly older, like outside of the teens, well, looking for the kind of content that you're consuming anyway.
Yeah.
People who have got a longer attention span and who are willing to give that kind of professional content more than 20% of the video's chance.
Yes.
Whereas we all know Instagram, scroll.
Yeah.
Maybe watch a reel for 30 seconds, not really consume the content fully and not really kind of like think about what this person's saying. Oh yeah, that looks cool. Scroll. Whereas YouTube, I think that the way that you consume it in kind of your head is much different. You go looking for that kind of piece of factual evidence, or the entertainment side, and then that's kind of a different side of the coin. But yeah, you go looking for professionalism and kind of somebody to deliver you something that you need, but you still want to be 100% believable, right?
Yeah. You're a child, Keelan. What's your YouTube like workflow? What are you doing on YouTube?
My workflow.
Yeah. How are you consuming YouTube?
I just watch funny stuff, really.
Funny stuff.
Well, not funny, but not really like factual, unless I'm looking for something specific. Like
what we're saying, long form.
Yeah, long form. Yeah.
You into your shorts and stuff like that? Is that a thing?
Nah.
Where do you consume it as well? Like what platforms in terms of like computer, phone, TV?
Oh, I'm a TV guy. Yeah.
TV guy.
TV.
Right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Long form, entertaining, and you're like 12. So that's an interesting demographic. And I'm the same. I'm on my TV. Yeah. I'm on my Google TV, my 70-inch or whatever in the living room, a ridiculously big TV. And I'm there. I'm looking for the recommended and my subscriptions, and I'm catching up on the stuff that my guys that I've subscribed to.
I like raw stuff at the minute.
Yeah,
like stuff that's just like it's not really like
not
produced that highly. It's just like this guy being genuinely him. Like getting to know the person. You know what I mean?
That's interesting, and I'm here for that as well because from a point of view of like, if I was to be a content creator, I would like I like the idea of not having to edit a great deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also from the point of view of the brand stuff, that still needs to be separated from things like influencer content and stuff like that. It's still got to be glossy. I think. I think there is a space for having some brands deliver raw content, but not at the expense of their brand positioning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Which is why TikTok's a little bit of like a grey area for a lot of brands because they're like, oh, it needs to be raw, it needs to be on my... Doesn't, I don't think. It can be, but polished content like the stuff that Dissident does or whatever, which is like, not, don't get me wrong, it's not like a TV ad. It's just a little bit more production value. It can still work on TikTok. Yes, it might not work as well as an individual who produces raw content. but that's not what the brand is. And I think you can damage a brand by trying to do the stuff that's trending.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, I remember when we first started, jump on every single social media trend going.
Yeah.
No matter what it does to the brand, no matter what it does to your CD, completely chuck your CD out.
Yeah.
Done, gone. We'll copy this. Oh, there was a really shit trend. It was like a little stick man called Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Can you remember that?
Yeah, Bob does this or whatever. I can't
Oh,
remember
fucking
exactly what it was.
hell, I hated that. But we did something for Fischer from it. It wasn't the current social media manager who's doing it. It was one that's left a long time ago. I looked at it and I was like, what the fuck is a brand are we doing? Bob likes Fischer.
Yeah.
We like Bob.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
I remember we did the that Barbie, the Barbie things.
Oh yeah, we
Like
did.
each story
Yeah,
was
we
a different
tried them.
Barbie.
The Barbie.
Yeah,
the
I
new
don't think you
Barbie
were a
film
fan of
come
that.
out.
Neither was I.
Oh, okay, good.
We were having a play with stuff like that. It was when the Barbie film was out.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because everybody jumped on that as well.
Yeah.
And like, there's a time and a place for following trend, but I don't think it's for brands.
No,
Like sometimes some brands do it really well, but you've got to be really clever if you're going to jump on a trend.
Yes.
And kind of maybe either counterintuitively go against the trend just to kind of occupy the opposite space. But not enough people do it well enough.
No.
And it just looks shit. Let's all do the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And all reach for the same kind of grab of audience.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like if you're not separating yourself in the market and in terms of your like actual, the material, the content that you put out, what's the point? It's a throwaway piece of content unless it's doing something that's like wildly interesting, or you happen to be the best one that jumped on that trend.
It's like people following sporting events, and then their feed becomes all about that sporting event.
Yeah.
When the brand's got nothing to do with sport.
Yeah.
Like why? Like, well, it's not getting you a new consumer segment because they're not looking at your brand for content about football or content about the rugby. They're not. That's not why they're looking at your brand. But you're trying to occupy the space of the brand that is. So it's not going to do anything for you.
No.
It's just again like wasted resource.
Yeah.
Like we at Fischer we try and stay away from any trends and kind of following any kind of like cultural sporting events. So it's just it doesn't deliver anything.
Although we did have we had a laugh at a meeting, didn't we? Where I pitched an idea where we get a load of like non-related influencers and we put a load of budget towards that, and like sponsoring sporting events that have got nothing to do with our target market.
That's counterintuitive marketing.
Yeah.
That's like occupying the space and just doing something really creative and funny with it. Like, why the fuck is this footballer holding up a massive duo power?
Yeah,
Or something stupid like that.
We were looking at like show jumping or something like that, or like dressage. Like Fischer Fixings presents dressage. You're like, hey, what's going on? Or we get these like beauty
synchronized swimming sponsored by Fischer.
And then you get these beauty influencers who have like got no experience in DIY perhaps, and they're just like, this is the new duo power.
Yeah.
And it's like comically awkward because they don't even know what it does.
But I love that because it is that counterintuitive marketing that makes people like sit up and think,
Yeah.
this is hilarious, but what's that product again?
It's going to be one of those things where you'd have to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
I think that's why we've not done it. It's like it would be so much resource, and if you didn't get it right, it would just be a waste of money. It'd be funny, it'd be fun to do, but it'd be it's.
And you know what? I'm stealing this off a podcast that I listened to the other day.
Oh, yeah.
But a brand that have done it really well is Yorkshire Tea.
Oh yeah.
If you watch any of the Yorkshire Tea adverts, they hire like really like high-end celebrities and put them into the Yorkshire Tea environment.
Amazing.
I'm not going to say anything more. Just go watch the adverts, find the podcast. It's amazing. It's so funny.
There was we will finish off in a second, but like Warburton's did some. They've had a few different campaigns where they've had like who's the guy that says
Lenny Henry.
No.
Oh, sorry, I was saying
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, yeah, they've done that as well. Yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson and Lenny Henry.
I swear I've seen him on the Warburton's advert.
He may well have done. And there was, I think he got like Sylvester Stallone. I'm not 100% sure. I watched a keynote speech with Jonathan Warburton, and he was talking about that. And it's like, it's brilliant. Like, just like, at what point would you associate Samuel L. Jackson with Warburton's bread? Like the most kind of like English thing ever. Brilliant, but
it's like the opposite of celebrity endorsement, but it works, right?
Yeah, but it was so good. I feel like we've come to the natural end of this, Dan. But is there anything that you wish we'd have talked about that. I haven't asked you a question. Is there any last words of wisdom you wanted to impart?
I don't think there's anything that we haven't covered that I specifically wanted to say. I think like kind of hopefully the little gold, if one golden nugget of marketing has come from this, it's like follow your positioning statement.
Yes.
Make sure that it's true throughout all of your marketing. I don't think you can really go wrong if you truly believe in that and what your brand is about, and you just make sure that it emanates through whether it's your copy, whether it's your advertising content, whether it's your push media. It doesn't matter as long as it emanates that same message and keep consistency. I think that is kind of the two key messages that I would hope people would take away from this little chat.
I 100% agree. Like, positioning is massive, and it's got to be consistent across all platforms. It doesn't mean that everything has to look the same. It just has to deliver the same messaging, same
100%.
communication, same values. Dan Czerwinski, Fischer Fixins, our friends, Keelan. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Been a pleasure. Cheers.